needs attention, nobody has broken the impasse between national leaders and the leaders of this group. Accordingly, we have decided to sponsor a motion when the House meets on Tuesday, setting up a parliamentary select committee to meet all key players and find a lasting solution.
Meanwhile, over 10 ODM members of parliament conducted a roadshow in Mombasa in a Meet the People campaign. The caravan snaked into the town from Twapa, where the MPs led by
eneo la magharibi tuko ndani ya ODM imara kama mwamba. Chama cha ODM tuliingia tukiwa na mwelekeo, tuliingia tukiwa na maono. Mwaka wa 2007 wakati wa kura kuhesabiwa, maono yetu ikapigwa pancha kidogo.
Sophia Wanuna, KTN Saturday Night Live.
Let's continue in tandem with the 2012 politics, and NARK Kenya presidential hopeful Martha Karua says she is optimistic she will win the forthcoming election and by more than 60% of the votes that will be cast. Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka tells Kenyans living in Texas that he will wipe out corruption if elected president. And in Nairobi, Deputy Prime Minister Uhuru Kenyatta has completed preparations to launch his new party tomorrow. Samogina has the full details.
The Gishugu MP was addressing NARK Kenya youth leaders at the end of a two-day training at the party's headquarters. Karua expressed optimism of clinching the country's presidency with a 60% majority vote, ruling out a second runoff.
Let us work hard. Round 1, 60% or more. Hatutaki 50 plus 1. 50 plus 1 is borderline. 60%. Aim for 60 and more.
Despite being ranked 5th in the recent opinion polls with a 5% rating, the Gishugu MP says she is working on a strategy that will catapult her to the presidency. Without going into details of the strategy, Karua ruled out getting into pre-election coalitions.
Mimi niko na matumaini ya kushinda round 1. Na kushinda bila kwenda kutafuta chama ingine.
In Boston, United States, Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka warned against the rising ethnic balkanization in the ongoing campaigns.
There's this resurgence of negative ethnicity in our country. We need to do something about it. And Kenyans living in the diaspora have a particular role to play.
Meanwhile, the hour is nigh for Deputy Prime Minister Uhuru Kenyatta to unveil his new political party, the National Alliance, on Sunday. At Kenyatta International Conference Center, elaborate plans and decorations in their final stages ahead of the Sunday launch. The event starts early morning, but the official unveiling ceremony begins in the afternoon at 2 p.m.
Be prepared for the unveiling of a political movement that will take this country to the next level, and be prepared for something that you have not seen before. We shall also have simultaneous launches taking place in different parts of our country.
Majority of leaders from Central Kenya will attend the event that is a culmination of a long waiting period since the Deputy Prime Minister at the Gema meeting in Limuru promised to offer political direction to the region.
Mtupatie sio zaidi ya mwezi mmoja. Baada ya mwezi mmoja turudi hapa. Kama tumesikilizana tuambie vile tumesikilizana. Kama hatujasikilizana munipatie ruhusa siku hiyo niwaambie mwelekeo ni gani.
Uhuru was catapulted to the political high table by former President Daniel Arap Moi, who handed him the leadership of KANU and anointed him as his successor.
We are open to pre-election coalitions, but as at now we are more concerned with building the party and, if possible, making a stab at forming the government.
Samogina, KTN Saturday Night.
Well, Betty Kielo has joined us once again, and she's about to give us details of that story we had touched on what happens if you do not take your child to school. Betty.
Yes, thanks, Edith. Now, President Kibaki has ordered a speedy probe on the NHIF scandal involving civil servants' medical scheme. Now, the president says punitive action will be taken against anybody found guilty of squandering public funds. Well, KTN's Carol Derry reports from Isiolo.
President Mwai Kibaki has finally broken his silence over the NHIF scandal since the saga first broke out. Speaking in Isiolo town during the opening of a mother and child hospital, the Catholic Diocese of Isiolo Matacare Hospital, the president sent out a harsh warning to those he claimed to be taking advantage of Kenyans and fleecing them of their hard-earned cash.
We must never compromise the health of our citizens because of greed and through schemes meant to put money in the pockets of people who have no capacity to deliver health services to the people.
The culprits will not go unpunished, says Kibaki.
Civil servants, like other tax-paying Kenyans, deserve a functional, efficient, and cost-effective health scheme. A punitive action should be taken on those found to have participated in any acts that may have compromised the health of the Kenyan people.
The Minister for Medical Services, Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, was scheduled to attend the ceremony but was noticeably absent, with Minister for Internal Security, Professor George Saitoti, reading Nyong'o's speech that steered clear of the raging NHIF debate. Isiolo has in the recent past been characterized by violence, and Saitoti says more security personnel will be deployed.
Reconciliation through the district peace committees are in place, and we're beginning to see some positive progresses.
I direct the Ministry of Lands to fast-track issuance of title deeds to local residents in order to streamline land ownership and management in the county.
The hospital has been constructed at a cost of 100 million shillings, and soon a medical university will be built in Isiolo.
President Mwai Kibaki has condemned in the strongest terms possible the scandal at the NHIF, saying that his government is investigating the matter and those involved will be punished. He's also cautioned those against development in the county of Isiolo to stop. Carol Derry, KTN, reporting in Isiolo. Now moving on to the story that Edith is quite keen on. Failure to take a child to school could soon land you in jail for 5 years or cause you to pay a fine of 5 million shillings. Well, this is one of the clauses contained in a draft bill that seeks to align the education sector with the new constitution. In the alignment spirit, Education Permanent Secretary Professor George Godia has announced that he has appointed 47 county directors of education, effectively abolishing the positions of provincial directors of education.
Every year, they are the first to receive examination results before distributing them to their juniors at the district level. But the position of Provincial Director of Education, as well as that of the District Education Officer, are no more. This follows the appointment of 47 county directors of education, 17 of them being women and 30 men. Education Permanent Secretary Professor George Godia says that county directors will be responsible for the implementation of education policies at the county level.
Among them being managing education in the counties, ensuring that there lies with the provincial administration to coordinate all education matters, school boards, PTAs, examinations, school infrastructure, school standards.
This announcement comes as the ministry concludes the drafting of the Education Bill 2012. The bill proposes the establishment of a 7-member National Education Board to advise the Cabinet Secretary on policy issues. The bill also seeks to criminalize repeating of classes and expulsion of students from school. On expulsion, the Education Bill allows only the Cabinet Secretary to come up with regulations that may allow teachers to take such a move only if all other corrective measures have been exhausted and on condition that the child and parent have been afforded an opportunity to be heard and provided that such a pupil is admitted to a correction institution. On admission, the bill proposes that no child will be denied admission to a public school and that no test or fee will be required before a child can be admitted to a school. For the first time after its introduction, free education could be anchored in law. This is expected to deter school managers who have blatantly flouted the government directive and imposed sometimes exorbitant fees on parents locking out of the system's children from poor families. For nomadic communities, the Education Bill seeks to establish a national council for nomadic education and marginalized areas and communities. Ansu Mwendia, KTN Saturday Night.
Now, will the new traffic rules open windows for corruption? I now hand you over to Edith Kimani for more details.
Thank you very much, Betty Kello. That's exactly what we're looking into in this story and others to come. And motorists flying Thika Superhighway will want to give me a keen ear now, because there will be new speed limits of 50 kilometers per hour on sections of the road that are considered to be within urban areas. The traffic department says the speed limit will only change when the government enacts a law setting new speeds for superhighways to conform with international standards. But in an interesting twist, our reporter Patrick Amimo found out that despite the dangers posed by walking along flyovers, some pedestrians say that they attempted to walk on these flyovers to have a bird's eye view of the construction work, as well as to avoid mud.
Thika Superhighway is meant to reduce the traffic congestion and lost man hours that was the norm. The construction of the road has seen traffic flow on the road is because of the many lanes. On some sections of the road, we have up to 10 lanes, 5 on each side of the road. The road is historic and the first of its kind in Kenya and the East Africa region. However, motorists are now advised not to exceed 50 kilometers per hour on sections of the road that pass within urban areas. Should we go by the Greater Nairobi boundary, the speed limit will apply between Nairobi to Ruiru town. Some would argue the speed limit will defeat the initial purpose of the highway.
This is an international road if we have to compare with other roads, and definitely we are sure we may come and see the speed to go higher than the 50 kilometers per hour. But for now we go with the existing law. The moment the law will be changed and give us another speed, we shall go by that.
The motorists word on speed limit.
Barabara ikikamilika itaongezwa. Juu sasa watu watakuwa wakipitia mahali kuna wezekana kupitika.
Kwangu si mbaya juu hivi vitu itasakuwa poa juu ya hii kuavoid hii accident.
50 kph kwa hii highway yenyewe haiwezekani kwa sababu yenyewe hii ni super highway.
In some sections of the road that are still under construction, motorists are advised to limit speed to below 30. According to the traffic police, it is only between Kenyatta University and Kahawa Sukari underpass where motorists are allowed to share service lanes. But on all other sections of the road, motorists are supposed to keep off service lanes, which are one way but with 2 lanes. However, some motorists are flouting the requirement. These motorists looked baffled when asked by a traffic officer to observe the regulations. Bumps and zebra crossings have been built on some sections of the highway. But PSV operators are now turning these sections that are on express lanes into passenger picking points. The same behavior is witnessed along the flyovers. This handcart pusher and his border colleague, who should know better, did not care that they were using the wrong side of the superhighway. Near the former Globe Cinema roundabout, many pedestrians walk along the flyover. Road signs asking pedestrians not to walk on flyovers are ignored. A thin space separates pedestrians walk, if any, and vehicles. One cannot escape injury or death should a vehicle lose control. But why take the risk?
Kama unaenda gara, unatumia dakika ngapi? 2. Sasa ukipita upande ya chini, dakika 10. Tena ni mahali safi. Ukiangalia hivi hapa fumbi hakuna. Sasa unaenjoy kabisa. Tena hapa juu baridi iko poa. Hewa yani unapata ile fresh kabisa.
Yenyewe nimeamua tu nijione maendeleo nikiwa huko juu venye maendeleo yanaendelea barabara. Juu yenyewe iko sawa.
Wananchi wa Kenya ni wananchi ambao wako na vichwa ngumu. Ameona wamemwambia asijaribu kupidia kwa hiyo nini, lakini yeye ni kichwa ngumu anaenda.
All the flyovers, the underpasses are not for pedestrians.
Concern was raised over people crossing the road.
Engineer at least watengeneze hata kama ni flyover. Unaona kuna shule pande ile inaitwa City Primary iko hapo. Hapa kuna mahostel. Bado kuna St Edward hapa. Wakivuka tu hivi hao watoto wakivuka hivi wanakuwa kwa kila siku.
What is the magic is that both pedestrians and motorists will have to be taught new ways of using the superhighway, because what is happening now is the application of the law of the jungle where everything is haywire. For KTN Saturday Night, I'm Patrick Amimo.
Thank you, Patrick. And you know, the issues of traffic don't just affect the people living in the CBD or in Nairobi. The high number of road accidents across the country is forcing Kenyans who live near black spots to take matters into their own hands in Kisumu. Residents have resorted to some unorthodox but effective methods to deal with road carnage at a spot known for the number of lives it has claimed. Fred Omuno reports from Kisumu.
Alendu Shopping Center on the outskirts of Kisumu City ranks among the most dangerous spots in Nyanza province. Just this week, 4 people lost their lives when a bus and matatu collided. Tired of the government's complacency, they erected maram bumps to slow down the reckless drivers.
The main reason why we have put it there is that we have waited for long to see if they can put it, but there's not. They have not. Yeah, so we decided ourselves to make it.
Alendu is not the only black spot in Kisumu. In early February, 26 people died at the Mamboleo junction along the Kisumu-Kakamega road following an accident involving a lorry and 2 matatus. The Darajambili bridge along the Kisumu-Busia highway is another black spot, but is strangely absent from the police website that lists danger zones around the city. Those listed include the Awasi-Ahero road section, the Kiboswa-Kisumu road, and the Darajambili Bondo junction. Residents of the affected areas agree that simply erecting speed bumps along the road could go a long way in alleviating their problems, but for some reason, the relevant authorities won't listen. From Kisumu County, I am Fred Omulo.
Well, from Kisumu, let's have a look at what's happening in Narok, where repair works have started on a stretch of the Maimahio-Narok Road, which had been closed due to traffic, due to wide cracks that are a danger to motorists. Now, Roads Minister Franklin Betts says that his engineers were working to fix the road in good time. Sophia Wanuna spoke with the minister and filed the following story.
The Maimahio-Narok Road was yesterday closed due to deep and dangerous gullies cutting right across the road and into the adjacent farmland. Minister for Roads Franklin Betts today announced that repair of the road had commenced and is expected to wind up soon.
As of now, we have now managed to fill and compact 3 meters of the 6. And I anticipate by noon tomorrow, assuming there is no rain, we should be able to be towards the end of the final 3 meters.
The road, which cost 4.2 billion shillings to construct, was officially opened August last year by President Kibaki. The road was meant to reduce travel time and cost from Nairobi to the Masai Mara. Tour guides who attempted to make detours to reach the Masai Mara reached a dead end when they discovered the dangerous cracks had stretched hundreds of meters into the farmland. The roads minister at the same time announced that speed bumps would be erected on the newly constructed Thika superhighway. This due to the sharp increase of deaths on the road.
We are now placing bumps on Thika Road. They were not planned for. But because of careless, reckless driving by our own people, we have been forced to put on those bumps.
The speed bumps and the 50 km/h speed limit are to ensure cautious driving on the highway. However, drivers of public service vehicles have also been cautioned against making stopovers on the main highway carriage to collect passengers, with pedestrians urged to use the sidewalks and only cross the road on designated places. Road safety continues to be a big issue in the country. As the government moves to put up measures to curb loss of life due to reckless driving, motorists and pedestrians alike must stick to the rules if sanity is to be restored on our roads. Sophia Wanuna, KTN, Saturday Night Live.
Thank you, Sophia. Now, she's touched on the issue that Betty Kialo, I'm sure, will bring up in her exclusive interview, which is coming just ahead. After this break, she has an exclusive interview with the Traffic Commandant, Joseph Oletito. Stay tuned.
With every dawn, a new hope is born. Hope for a better day in every way. Our dreams and aspirations fuel our energy. A sense of being in every little everything we do. Bringing us closer in so many ways, with one agenda to achieve our goals. The simple things we hold dear bring happiness so near. The belief in our ability to achieve enhances our lives, step by step, minute by minute. That distant goal draws ever so near. At UAP, we enhance lives across Africa to deliver the dreams we all hold so dear. Insurance, investment management, property investment, and financial advisory. UAP, better, simple life.
For 25 years, Visa has helped athletes get to the Olympic Games. Now we're going to help you get there too. When you pay with your Visa card, you stand a chance to win.
What I really like to share with my fellow Kenyans, we own a very good country. The guys who bore me are those who use young people to fight their political battles. Last time I lost my close friends we've been schooling with for so long because of someone who has never sat with me here in my life. It's not fair, and I really hope my college mates, cousins at home, and every mature citizen in this country will say no to killing of a fellow Kenyan.
Should have got a Solitech. Look for a Solitech at your local store. Solitech, the power to protect. Coca-Cola, be part of the journey.
Nafurahia undugu na uko wetu, nasherekea kazi na bidii yetu. Tushirikiane bega kwa bega tujikaze
Deutsche Breweries Limited, leaders in quality. And now, introducing another one from the home of quality. Triple distilled Crescent Vodka, now available. The home of quality. Truly Kenyan.
Welcome back to KTN Saturday Night. We're still continuing with the theme of traffic laws and what's happening on our roads. Betty Kello has an interview later on. But first, those laws you're talking about, Betty, what are your thoughts on them?
Of course, Edith, thank you for that. Of course, while you'll be highlighting the bills that we have, and of course they're so interesting and very stringent, I must say, when it comes to actually just bringing the sanity back to the roads. And of course, right now I'm with the Traffic Commandant, Joseph Oletitu, and in a bit we'll be giving you details on the new speed limits.
All right. Thank you very much, Betty. We'll be coming back to you for that interview. But first, let's have a look at some details into that traffic bill that's just been passed. And, it is no doubt that the recent road accidents that we have witnessed in our roads in the past weeks have gotten all of us concerned on just what we might be doing wrong. It is also in this light that policymakers, including the government and traffic departments, are working to find a much-needed solution to reduce the deaths of innocent Kenyans. And just as our reporter Patrick Amimo has highlighted, this week the Cabinet okayed changes to the Traffic Act to deal with traffic offences which actually account for about 25% of the accidents in the country. Additionally, Chief Whip Jakoro Midiwo is set to table the Traffic Amendment Bill 2012 that seeks to put offences on the spot. So let's go through some of the crucial ones, and we begin here. If you are found driving under the influence to an extent that you are unable to control your vehicle or properly control your vehicle, you shall be liable upon conviction to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 10 years or a fine not exceeding 500,000 shillings or both. Secondly, if a motorist is found driving on a pavement, a pedestrian walkway, or drives through a petrol station to avoid traffic build-up, this is where the matatu drivers come in, they will be liable to imprisonment for a term of not less than 3 months or a fine of not less than 30,000 shillings or both. If you're moving on, the traffic bill also vests the ownership of motor identification plates on the Kenya Revenue Authority. And therefore, one will be required to surrender his or her vehicle's number plates to the Registrar of Motor Vehicles once a motor vehicle is transferred from one person to another. So, for example, if you want to sell a car, if you want to transfer it to your husband's name or your son's name, you have to go through the Registrar of Motor Vehicles. Now, according to the bill, mounting of roadblocks shall not be uninformed. The bill states that there shall be designated spots on public roads where police can mount roadblocks. However, in exceptional circumstances, the roadblocks can be mounted in a non-designated place, but this can only be done with a go-ahead from the Inspector General. When it comes to speed, Patrick Amimo has mentioned that on Thika Highway, you're only allowed to do 50 kilometers per hour. The bill proposes that the driving license of a person who has been convicted for the violation of a speed limit prescribed shall be invalidated for a period of not less than 3 years. And finally, driver's license holders would have to undergo eye tests every 3 years to be able to renew their licenses. People failing to adhere to this requirement would be disqualified from holding a license for 3 years. And that is the Traffic Amendment Bill. But right now, hosting the Traffic Commandant, let's have a look at what Betty Kello has to say. I'm sure she has a lot of questions regarding that. Over to you, Betty.
Thank you so much, Edith. Well, indeed, I'm joined now by the Traffic Commandant, Joseph Oletitu. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Yeah. Now, this week alone, Commandant, we've had 15 lives lost on the roads. What could you majorly attribute all this to?
Well, thank you, Betty.
My take on to what the question you have just asked is, I attribute this to our own culture and business attitude. It is common knowledge that 85% of our crashes in the country are caused by human error. Like the one you maybe want to point out is the one that happened the other day just in Muranga.
Yes.
Purely it was the negligence of the trailer, of the lorry that was carrying stones. This is a commercial truck that rammed into this matatu, and there the results were we lost those Kenyans, very unfortunately. Yes.
Okay, and talking probably of speeding, which probably is one of the major causes of accidents in Kenya, will the traffic department ever control this?
Yes, we shall actually eventually control traffic speed in our country. One very good important thing that you need to appreciate is the fact that the police department is now embracing IT. And once we have the IT aspect in all our stations and provinces and divisions, then we are done as far as speed is concerned.
Okay.
Because there's already a pilot project that is going on in Naivasha and the Thika. Today, if you drive to Naivasha, you will eventually, as you approach Naivasha as a district, you will find all motorists driving at a very, very, very normal speed. This tells me that, and of course we have all previously known that Naivasha and of course Kinungi area has been a very bad black spot. But since when we had the speed cameras that are there now, they have really assisted us a great deal. And likewise to Thika.
Okay. Yeah. And speaking of Thika, do we have speed cameras on the Thika Superhighway? Because as of yesterday, the Thika Superhighway was actually, speed limit was actually implemented at 50 kilometers per hour. Is that, will that actually take place, seeing that probably the road is actually not complete?
At the moment, we would want motorists to obey to that limit, just because the road has not been handed over and the engineers are still on the road. You must also have realized that on the superhighway, there is quite a lot of work that is being done now. We would want to see furnitures put in place, and that is the signage, the marking. You can see some parts have not been marked. And therefore, it also gives now the motorists, it confuses the motorist that in which lane is he. And we would want to see that all this, the whole way is marked, and therefore, once it has now been handed over, we all know a dual carriage speed limit is 110. But for the purposes of the constructions that is going on now, I would want to tell the motorists to obey the 50 rule because of what is happening on the highway. The highway has not yet been handed over, and therefore it has not been officially been opened to us. The engineers are just allowing us move faster and maybe get to our places of work.
Okay, and speaking of the 50 kilometers per hour, I mean, how will the traffic department actually make sure that motorists do not overpass the stipulated speed limit? Now,
with the issue of us introducing the speed cameras, and as I'm talking to you right now, we have some speed cameras in Ithika, and those are the cameras that we are using. And these cameras are capable of producing evidence on the spot, and that is the direction the government is really headed to.
Okay. Yes. Now, speaking of the government, last week Cabinet passed amendments of a traffic bill that actually says that motorists, traffic offenders will actually be fined up to 300,000 shillings for offences committed. What's your opinion on that? Do you support it?
Personally, that's the direction that this country needs to take. One, we all know in other parts of the world that if you commit a traffic offense, it's a very, very, very serious offense. Because one, the fines are more or less instant. Now that one of our MPs has come up with such a bill, and of course the Minister of Transport has also come up with the same bill of reviewing our traffic fines, it is totally long overdue. We needed those fines reviewed like 2 years back. Yes.
And these fines, they're pocket pinching. I mean, don't you think this will actually open up new avenues for corruption?
Madam, it is common knowledge in this country that we have very, very, very clear laws on corruption. And we have an institution that is supposed to deal with the cases of corruption. Even if you look at the current, Police Service Act, we have a section in the discipline aspect that it touches on corruption. And therefore, for he or she who decides to be corrupt, of course the law will take it is rightful arm and see to it that this person is properly handled.
But how will you make sure that probably your officers on the ground do not accept bribes? Because that is actually something that, happens still.
In the same act, which we are really trying to say that the government needs to appreciate, is the fact that most Kenyans do not want to go to court. And what we are really telling the parliamentarians, they should have an aspect in the bill that touches on instant fines. So that the policeman can charge you on the spot. Then now the issue comes, who is now corrupt? Because if you already, people have been agitating, they are delayed in courts. So can we have the instant fines on the spot, so that you are given a period of time in which to pay your fine? Yes.
And as a department, do you have a timeline where all these things will actually be put in place? Talking of the speed cameras, are there things that actually we are expecting to see soon on the roads?
If it were not because of our procurement procedures that we have in the country, which are at times they are quite hectic, we could now be having the speedy cameras. But as I've mentioned to you, we already have 2 pilot districts that we have the speedy cameras. And therefore, this is let's just give it time. Now that already the bill, the legislation on speedy cameras had already been done, we all saw the legal notice that the Minister for Transport signed. It gave now the police the mandate to handle speed cameras. It is just because of the procedures, because the police did tender the speed cameras sometime last year, but because of the issues involved in procurement, the procurement procedures were not completed. But that does not mean that we are not buying the cameras. We are buying them.
Okay. And now, finally, putting your department on the spot, the recent bill that Edith just talked about by Jakoyo Midiwo says that the traffic department should actually be disbanded. Do you support that?
I wouldn't really want to support that, just because if you're going to allow each and every policeman handle traffic matters, and yet, before you join traffic, to all traffic policemen in the country, these people must be taken on a special training. I really do not know whether the government will really have that capacity of taking all the 80 plus, and we are actually recruiting next year some other policemen, 80 plus officers, to be keen and be specific on what they are supposed to be doing. And when it comes to the issues of who is answerable, then that becomes quite very challenging, because most cases need to be investigated. And today, if you handle a case and tomorrow somebody else is handling it, we shall find ourselves not moving towards the right direction.
All right. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, sir, for coming through. Thank you so much for your time.
Madam. Okay, please.
Okay. Back to you, Edith.
Thank you very much, Betty. She was interviewing the traffic commandant, who was answering a few questions on the traffic rules that you will have to really get to know really fast, because they affect each and every one of us. We'll be having an overview of that at the end of this bulletin, so do stay tuned for that. But right now, though, to health matters. Thank you very much, Betty. Last week, we brought you the story of Frederick Washika. This is a husband and a father of 2 who is suffering from motor neuron disease. The family's plight and how their lives had to cope with the ailment. But as we promised last week, this week we bring you a second part of that story on how the disease really affects other people and the depths of the disease.
Remember Frederick Washika from our last week's story? Washika is just one example of people with motor neuron disease.
Motor neuron disease is a term used to describe various diseases which all have in common the fact that there is damage to the motor nerves that transmit the impulses from the brain to the muscles. But to understand it more effectively, one will have to go through the background of some of the anatomy of the nervous system on how it works.
When you get the intention that you want to do something, you have the thought or the intention in your mind. Now that intention is transmitted from your brain to your muscles. Say, for example, you want to move your hand or move your legs. It's transmitted by way of nerves, and those nerves are called the motor nerves.
According to Dr. Ndege, motor neuron disease is a degenerative disorder where the nerves deteriorate without any external trigger factors. The reasons for this degeneration are often unknown, so what follows is the failure of the transmission of signals from the brain down to the muscles.
It's like a relay system. The first relay is from the brain down to a point in the spinal cord. And the second relay is from the spinal cord terminating in the effector organ, which is the muscle.
This disease also has different classifications, some of which include ALS. Here, both the upper and lower relays get affected. So the signs that one gets come as a mixture of the dysfunction of both the upper motor neurons and the lower ones. PBP. It presents with similar damage of motor neurons, but mainly with swallowing, which has to do with the weakening of the throat muscles. But one question that has been puzzling many is whether a person can suffer from more than one type of the disease.
It's a progressive disorder. Once it starts, it marches on relentlessly. So actually for most patients, they end up merging into one. It starts as a PBS, but eventually it might spread to involve everything else. So for every patient who has got any of the motor neuron diseases, they are at risk of getting paralysis everywhere. And that's the fear and why it's such a terrifying disease. Because, once it starts, it's going to march on relentlessly.
Medics say that they have not yet found the causes of this disease. However, some people are more likely to get it for a number of reasons. One is genetic. Medics say that there is a gene that undergoes a mutation in various families, and chances of it being transmitted down generations are high. So far, research shows genetic factors are responsible for 1 out of every 10 cases of motor neuron disease. Sporadic factors. For the vast majority of cases, the disease can mysteriously decide to attack without any traces of genetic predispositions. But if you have a family member who is suffering from this disease, one of the most important and easy ways of ensuring their comfort is by massaging them. This helps in the reduction of muscle cramps and fatigue.
It is a disease that was heard of a decade ago, but now it's here with us, and medics say that it's here to stay. Well, before we didn't know any information concerning this disease, but now we know. For KTN, I am Mala Kivila.
Thank you, Mala. To our feature of the day, and many imagine that to hear the door clunk behind them and know that they have to serve a prison sentence is one of the worst things that could happen to them. But many inmates can tell a different story. Earning one's freedom can be equally scary. Returning to society means dealing with stigma and starting afresh on every front, from building relationships to finding employment, and that's often so stressful that a section of inmates often find themselves behind bars once more. Tonight on our feature of the day, we share the hopes and fears of an inmate making the journey home after 12 years behind bars.
After 12 years away, Hezekiah Katui is going home, taking with him all the worldly possessions he has amassed in the last decade. They fit neatly in 3 little bundles. This, together with a sewing machine, make up his material possessions. Hezekiah has spent 5 years at the Shikusa GK prison. In 2000, he was accused of defilement. This is when his troubles began.
Nilishikwa mwaka wa 2002 na nikakuja nikafanya kesi nikiwa rumande, nikaifanya miaka 5, nikakuja nikafungwa miaka 7. Ndio nimetoboa kwa siku ya leo.
12 years down the line, Hezekiah has paid his dues and is now a free man. The local church choir has come to escort him home. As the convoy snakes to his house, the choir bursts into song. As if to command all the obstacles to move out of his way. Settling in will be difficult, but none of these challenges is evident today. There is only excitement. Hezekiah's homestead in Ingolomosio village, Nandi County, is a venue for a church service for Hezekiah.
He left as a young man of 24. Now he returns as a worldly man of 36. While he was away, the community changed. Children were born, the people he knew died, and the dynamics of village life shifted. But each and every member of the community steps forward now to show acceptance. And while he appreciates their support, Hezekiah's eyes are trained on one person, his wife.
Kwa sababu kuna wanaume wengi wanatafuta wale wameachwa ovyo ovyo namna hii. Na vile umekaa kwa nyumba miaka yote, endelea kuwa mwaminifu kwa mume wako kwa sababu amebadilika.
12 years apart means they will have to relearn each other's ways.
Mimi niko na furaha tele kwa mzee wangu kupambana kwa jela alafu amekuwa mshindi.
After the last strains of the music fade away, Hezekiah will be left to deal with the unpleasant realities of settling back into society. He served time for defilement, for which he may face stigma. And while he has come armed with a tool to ply his trade, tailoring, in order to earn a living, he will have to convince locals to seek his services over those of his competitors.
Ninaomba tu wa Kenya wenzangu wanisaidie kwa sababu nimetoka ndani ya gereza na nimetumu miaka mingi sana.
Whether he is guilty of the crime, Hezekiah will not say. It is water under the bridge, but the perception that he did it means he faces the most difficult task of all, making amends.
Ako Lukari, tuna mama ambao nilikuwa nafanyia kazi kwa boma lake, na wakati shughuli iliingia ya malipo ndio ikatokea kwamba nimetifali mimi mtoto yake. Lakini kwa hayo yote nilisema naweza nikamuomba msamaha kama nilifanya ama kama sikufanya, Mungu ndiye anajua.
The odds are stacked against the inmate, so that even when at home he is never really free. Under conditions of confinement, violent tendencies and negative emotions are only intensified. This makes them dangerous not only to those around them, but to themselves as well. There is a very high likelihood that many will revert to a life of crime within a year and find themselves back behind bars.
Tutakuwa tunamtembelea nyumbani kuona ya kwamba kweli hii cherehani amechukua hapa, hii mafunzo amepata hapa katika jela, kweli anatekeleza huko nyumbani.
Families of the incarcerated are also doing time. A study estimates that half of all male children of inmates will also enter the system as juveniles. But every so often, an inmate who has been incarcerated for a long time returns to break the mold. Each inmate hopes that it will be him or her, and so when they return, they face the challenges looming large before them, hoping that now that they have survived the physical incarceration, they can also break free of the chains of the mental prison that still holds them captive. Wilkinson Abwa, KTN, Saturday Night.
Thank you very much, Wilkiston Nyabo. As you can see, Nicholas Mudimba has joined us in studio, but on the other side, Nicholas, between Bayern Munich and Chelsea, who do you think is going to take the cup this evening?
Absolutely, I have to be objective today, neutral, but on the other end, I'll go for Chelsea, and the match has just kicked off. It's 5 minutes on, and of course, in the bulletin, I'll be giving you and telling you who are the new African Club Volleyball champions, and of course, the Bamburi Super Series, I'll be telling you who will meet who in the semi-final. All that after a short break.
We must never compromise the health of our citizens because of greed and through schemes meant to put money in the pockets of people who have no capacity to deliver health services to the people.
That may be good
good enough for these gems, but gems are getting tougher. You need advanced protection. Lifebuoy Advanced Lifebuoy gives protection against 10 infection-causing germs. 10 infection-causing germs. 1 advanced protection. Lifebuoy.
Natural beer, sugar-free, truly Kenyan.
Someone who can do the dunks, the people, the crosses and everything, and still play real basketball. That's the main thing.
Lives across Africa. Insurance, investment management, property investment, and financial advisory. UAP, better, simple life.
Hundreds of children like Kevin and Ibrahim need heart surgery. Touch a child's heart by participating in the Matter Heart Run on the 26th of May. The run shall be flagged off at 7 a.m. in Nyayo Stadium, Nairobi, Buka Academy, Mumias, and Baraki Stadium, Mombasa. Support the kids by buying t-shirts, cups, and wristbands from all Nakumats in Nairobi and Mombasa, The Junction, Capital Center, Galitos, and Timor. You can also donate via our M-Pesa number 526-300. Talk to us for more details. The Matter Heart Run. Touch a child's heart.
And it's now time for sports.